Good evening, planet Earth, or good morning, wherever you may be in this wonderful planet Earth that we live on. And my name is David Null, also known as AKA Hawkeye Two Feathers. And I welcome you to this little chat, and I thank you for stopping in if you do. And I'm very new to the YouTube thing. I'm trying to get better, shorter, be more precise with things, because when you get a little long-winded, people just don't understand. Now, there are folks who are like, over the years, in fact, I just replied to somebody on a G plus thing. And I mean this with the bestest of intents, folks, because that's why I'm had to start this YouTube business in the first place, was because as a white man with Native American blood, and who cares how much? I was told by a Lakota elder 15 years ago that one good drop of Native blood would outweigh all the white blood, which I'm agreeing with. And there's been too much, oh God, persecution just isn't even the right word. And on both sides. Now, the Native Americans have an absolute right to hate the white man, bar none. And do you much blame them? No. I mean, especially what the white man did, the Trail of Tears and etc. Now, what gives me the right to speak about this? I'm a human being. Do I have to pull my ancestry card out and go, here, these are my grandmother's names, and they go back here, and they were all Cherokee? And I'm not quite sure of the grandfathers. They might have been like half Cherokee too. I'm not trying to say, well, you need to be 2/3 in order to qualify as I'm not looking for qualifications. I'm not. Creator is my qualifier. I don't need to qualify to anything. And so with that said, how do I put this? All right. I have traveled around as a puppeteer and a storyteller for many years. I started at about 1987 making puppets, string puppets called marionettes, hand puppets. I've developed stories. In fact, this character sitting right here beside me, he's one of the characters that I found, Horatio. He's been with me and been thousands of children have hugged this young man here. And I went around telling stories, and then I noticed that no one was telling the old stories, the Native American stories and things. So I started adapting some of the puppets to tell those stories in puppet form. And then I started getting invited to powwows, and I've traveled around to many a powwow over the history of my traveling as a puppeteer and a storyteller. And I've met a lot of people over the years, and that's not counting I've met a lot of people over the years, and also I've met a lot of Native American people. Kashka LaRue, Kashka, my goodness, the legend keeper from the Tlingit tribe in Alaska. He invited me to go with him to Alaska, and I couldn't go. I should have went if I'd had to just drag me behind the ship. Anyway, what qualifies me? Well, you could go on my Facebook page. There are pictures. I've got powwow pictures and things. And does that really matter? Do you need this verification that I'm qualified to speak about this? However, I'm going to continue a little more. Now, as a child of about 9 years old, 10, 11, 12, I was very lucky in that my adopted father was very much into camping, Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts. He was a Cub Scout and a Boy Scout leader as well. And every chance he could, he took us camping. Not, the boys, the guys, but the whole family, we went camping. And so all of my life, thank you so much, Arnie, for what you did for us. And up from the bottom of my heart, Pops. And um, so I've been close to the outdoors for a long time. Now, in Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts, they talk to you about the bear and the cub and the wolf, and how important it is to be family and close, and to do the pack thing. So this has been ingrained in me, my native ways, if you will, in a white man's world. To understand as a Cub Scout, Boy Scout, what that meant, what the earth meant, what you don't go into the forest and tear everything down and chop it all up and burn it in a big bonfire. No, that's not what you do. You are conscious of what you do, your actions. We learned plants and animals and tracking. I mean, I was tracking at the age of 10 and 11 down there in Florida, which in that sugar sand is really hard to do. Whew. On any occasion. However, I now live in Southwest Georgia, north of Tallahassee, almost in a line. And I've gone to a lot of powwows. Oh, does that qualify me? No. What it does say is, though, that that's where my family is. Down in Cairo, Georgia. Some people will pronounce it Cairo. It's probably related to Cairo, Egypt. Actually, I hadn't looked at it on a map. We might actually be on a ley line. I hadn't thought of that. Anyway, but they're just south of Cairo is the Tama tribal lands. And it is a sort of a conglomerate of the Muskogee Creek, Southern Cherokee, and there was, I can't remember off the top of my head right now, but over towards southern Alabama and northern Florida there in the Panhandle, it's a type of, it is a branch of the creek, Muskogee Creek, and I can't remember the name. Anyway, doesn't matter. But the true fact of the matter is that I have sat with these people. I've had counsel with these people. They've taught me so much, and I have been allowed to give my point of view, which is wonderful. And that's what good counsels will do. You will listen to one another and make a decision based upon the information from the group. Yeah, that's good practice, huh? It's a shame our government don't do that, you know? So now here I am yapping on about this red man, white man, and Native American traditions whites don't understand. Well, I'm going to hit on this lady one more time. This Cindy K. Curry with her YouTube channel is Rise Together, I think it is, or something like that. And about 2 weeks ago, she went on, and there was something about the Dakota pipeline and the demonstrators and the protesters, and they're not protesting. No, they're camped out saying we're not leaving our land. There's a difference. If I go up there, I'd be protesting because it ain't my land, technically. I could be invited onto the property, onto their, what white man calls a reservation. You see, Native Americans, they really didn't have boundaries. No, they had areas. Well, this is where the Cheyenne lived, and this is where the Lakota lived, and this is where the Dakota lived, and this is where the Blackfeet lived, and this is where the Blackfoot lived, this is where the Iroquois lived, this is where the Cherokee lived, the Creek, etc., on down the line. It's just where they lived. Did they have a territory staked out? They didn't do that. Now, they had boundary marks because it's like, all right, now you're getting our hunting territory over here. And sure, they had skirmishes. And way back, I'm sure that they had great Indian wars. And they warred against each other. That is sort of the nature of the human being. However, the nature of the red man versus the white man, red man didn't build a boat and go across the ocean to conquer another land. Now just stop and think about that for a second. All right. The red man didn't build a boat to go across the ocean to try to take over, massacre, and become kings and lords over the people who lived there. No, they were content to have their areas where they lived. They bartered and traded. There were things that the, oh God, I'm just going to say the creek, because they were down here along, the Seminole and the Appalach and the Appalach area down here. Those folks knew how to do oysters and dry fish and I live about a mile from what is called the Thigpen Trail. And it goes from all the way down, if you traced it, all the way down to the coast, all the way up into like New Hampshire or something. And it was the old trading route. And I understand why, because I've looked at it on Google Earth, and it rides along a ridge down here for a good ways. Whoever picked out this route did a really good job, because they weren't going to have to worry about crossing any major bodies of water or swamps or anything. Yeah, they're the occasional. But by and large, they had traveled down and followed a ridge all the way down from, to Atlanta, all the way down to the ocean. Now, why is that important? It's because they traded amongst themselves. You wanted to get fish in the wintertime when there was nothing growing in North Carolina and Tennessee and up in there. Well, those folks didn't necessarily want to leave, but there were a lot of them that did migrate. Guess what? They migrated down Thigpen Trail, very near where I live. Like I said, a mile, crow fly, all the way to the ocean. And so this was a big trade route. Now, the Native Americans were very prominent down here in the Southeast. Yeah. And it's the white man and the Trail of Tears that kind of ended that. In fact, there are people around here that I'm not saying it was for every reason, but the stories of the older generations, and the Trail of Tears is in so many terms really isn't that long ago. And some of these family traditions and histories, and I'm speaking of the white man now, and the stories of their grandfathers, etc., and how the stories came down. And it was that, they didn't really have a problem with the Cherokee down here, except that folks were moving in and, plowing up places and putting up fences. And Native Americans never figured out about about fences, but pens, small pens and things, yes, and you had to build a hutch to keep critters from getting in your corn and things. But, by and large, but to fence off 40 acres and to, stake your claim, they're not into that at all. At all. In fact, from their standpoint and their traditions, none of us can own Mother Earth, not even a section. What I paid for this piece of property that I live on, thank you, Jesus, it's just rent. And I paid off the note to the bank, and I have a certificate of title, but I still have to pay the taxes every year, which is going to have to come out of my ear again this year somehow. At least they're lower than they were last year. Thank goodness for small favors and reading the law. The fine print. So, how am I qualified to speak about this? I've been living down here with these folks. One of my, a newer but dear friend who is an old soul, I didn't know, but he grew up in Cherokee. We go down on the Ochlockonee River in our kayaks all the time. He's one of the only people that I know of lately. He's a few years younger than me. I'm 64. He's in his mid-40s, I believe. So, but that will go down into the swamp and not be scared. I mean, you be careful, but you be careful anywhere you go. But you go to find somebody that'll go into the swamp with you? Really? Whoa, heck yeah. So, Goose, you're a lovely man. He is absolutely a lovely man. Called me up and offered some of his deer meat from the first kill of his season as a blessing offering to me, as his respect for me. Him being full-blooded Cherokee, me being mixed, but that he knows where my heart is. We have sat, we've talked, we've discussed, we've prayed together, we've fished together, and he offered me some of his take from the first deer in honor and respect for me. Oh man, I mean, I don't feel like the old white side of me says, you don't deserve that. What did you do that for? He did it out of respect for me for many ways, because I'm one of the few people who can think like he does, as a native, as an Indian, as someone to go down in the swamp and not be scared if a snake, crawls by or something, or you don't scream and screech and stuff. And you do things by the sun and the moon and the stars. How am I qualified to speak about this? Many moons ago, I was asked if I wanted to go on a walkabout. If I wanted to be to learn more about the Red Road. And the Red Road is kind of simple, but it's not. And I'm going to put it in a couple of easy terms. And this is for you white folk out there. The Red Road is simple. The Red Road says, respect all things. Cindy K. Courier, this is where I'm bringing you back into the conversation. You made a comment that Native Americans were savages because they worshiped animals, that they worshiped the sun. I'm sorry. Let me take my glasses off so you can see my eyeballs. Native Americans don't worship anything. God, Creator, is in our hearts all the time. He's everywhere. You don't have to worship it. You just acknowledge it. That's all. And that's the worship, if you must. Worship is a white man's thing. Native Americans don't worship anything, y'all. This feather here. And I'm like, I think this is an owl feather because of the way it's the lines. But owl feathers and some hawk feathers will look alike. But to my point, I went on a walk the other day down to my river in the backyard here, about a quarter mile back. And I have my spirit guide gives me information. And he's like, hey, head over in this direction. I got a surprise for you. I've lived on this land here for 35 years. And my next door neighbor doesn't mind if I walk around in his backyard because it's so hilly and swampy most of the time anyway. And he doesn't care about the back property. He cares about where his property sits and the fact that he's got the backyard. He can go wander in if he wants. But most of the time it's too washed out. In fact, when you look at the river on the map, it shows that when it comes under the bridge up the road from me, that the river splits. Now, it doesn't really split, but when the water's up, it will. And there are different channels and different things. So I was looking because I was curious as to how low the water is, but that there's a little bit of trickle in the Ochlockonee River. But it's not much of one. I'm talking about you can walk right down the middle of the riverbed. There are holes, but there are big, long spaces of nothing but sand, and I'm talking a trickle this wide going through the sand. So I get a little friendly tap on the shoulder that's like, go over this direction over here, check it out. And I'm like, okay. A friendly tap usually means I'm going to check out something cool. Well, not only did I get this like brand new feather, and I haven't gotten any feathers in a while. Now, shame on me, I haven't had as many walks as I have in the past. But this last 2 years, I took some really bad falls, and it's hard for me to walk sometimes. My knee gives out, and my hips especially for some reason. So I'm gifted with this feather. Now, if I had not got this little tap on the shoulder to like nudge over here, and when you're down in the swamp, nudging going to your right or left can be a really big deal. So I'm giving a present now to a Native American. This is a special present because Creator and the spirits and the wood spirits acknowledge that I am here on this earth. I have made my presence known in my woods and neighboring woods, that I am here to protect. I'm here to protect the trees on my land, and if whatever way protected on someone else's, protect the water, protect the right of way, whatever I need to do. And so this was a present to say thank you. And it was also a present to say, hey, remember us, you need to come walk in the woods more. Yes, I do. But where I found this feather was like really way, way out there in a pile of vines and cat briars that'll stick you to death, and blackberry bushes, vines. So to get this, I had to kind of reach in and get in there to get it, but it was worth it. Now, so what does this mean? Old white man trying to be a Native American. A sacred bird that is my totem, that I found out for years and years ago, has left me a feather, a very nice feather. It had not been, this feather had not been sitting out long. You can just tell that it hadn't been sitting out. And it was lying right on top. I mean, just of some weeds. It was like really tenderly just perched there. Well, when I picked up the feather, it was like a little flash of a dream, and I was to, hey there, Horatio, was to go off to my left. Now, this meant going on the other man's property, but it was okay because he's not a hunter. He's just an old hippie type that likes to, he's got an old school bus and a little place that he built and everything. He just likes to be down in the woods and likes to, chill out. Don't hear him make much noise. I'll make a lot more noise than they do. So I go over on this property, and I'm trying to remember as I'm walking across, when the water gets high on my property and on his is upstream for me, that the water will break through the bank and come down certain channels. And the locals call it Lost Creek. Well, 2 miles down the road is a real Lost Creek. It's a huge watershed. And it's in jeopardy too. Well, shame on it. But so as I was walking over there, I was like, well, while I'm here, I wonder if I can find out where Lost Creek is, where it dumps onto my place. So as I'm walking, which isn't far, but about 150 yards, the end of a football field, you'll say, through the woods and, briars and stickers, the whole drill. No trail, just off I go. And thinking with this feather, and it was like, okay, stop. Now look down and to your right. And when I did, I noticed something I have not noticed all the years of me living here. And I'm not saying that I have scoured the other gent's property, but I have walked it, and I have been on it in my kayak when the river is up, because you can just float everywhere around here when the river is up, which is really cool. Dangerous, but cool. So I got to this spot and looked down, and there is this large artesian well. I couldn't remember the name of it. Now, hidden off over here in the swamp. Now, right beside it are all these ditches and everything, but they're sand. Now, where I live is the tail end of where they say the glacier left. And underneath me, in fact, this house is sitting on some of the hardest Georgia white clay you'll ever see in your life. And right under that here is white clay. They make kitty litter up the road from me. In fact, I have dug it out of my yard and have some up at the well. There's a lot of sand in too. Well, down in the backpack there, everywhere I walked is mostly sand, mostly. Because over the millennium and millions of years between the two clay hills, it is the sand has built up. We've had some floods that'll add this much sand in some spots. I mean, and in other places rip out that much sand in one flood. So I'm looking down and I'm thinking, now here's a pool of water in a really odd spot out here in the middle of this swamp place. The river is another, at least another good football field and a half away from my location. There is nothing around me. There's all kinds of little dips and valleys and stuff. I mean, it's just not straight and flat. You keep walking around, and it's where the river went through and cut eddies in the land. It's really cool. And it changes all the time with the water flow. So I thought I did stumble upon something that I have never seen before. It's a natural water hole with fresh water. An artesian well, meaning that it's open. And I know that I have water in the bottom of my well at a certain depth. And when I can see the water go down, like now, I don't have any water, but it will reach a certain spot and like not go dry. There might only be that much water in the bottom of my well, but it has never gone dry. Never. Now it's come close and we had to bring in water, but there was still mud down there. There was still water. And I say that because I've climbed down in there and dug it deeper. Well, even when it was shallower at about 18 feet, it never really dried up. It stayed muddy. So I've dug down into it over the years and taken more out. It's now about 21, maybe 22 feet at the deepest spot. Mostly about 20. And it's bowled out at the bottom. It's a good sized room down there. When you're standing in the well, you can hold your arms out both sides and not touch the side. Go all the way around. So it's my arms are 6 feet and it's at least another foot or so on each side of my hands. So I've been inside the earth here. I know what the dirt and everything, I know what the sediment and everything looks like. Over there at this hole, near where I found this feather of all places, and being led to walk over there when I picked up the feather, because I had no intentions of looking for water. But now I know where there is a source. And it's fresh. It's not contaminated. Now I can see where animals have come down to it. But I didn't have a stick long enough to poke down in there. But here's the trick. Now, in the river in my backyard, it runs a little tannish because of all the tannin from all the leaves and everything. And I know to expect that. Well, because the water hasn't run much, some of the deeper holes are kind of, they're really dark. They're not. And some folks call it black water. And I've had some some of my Native American friends from up in Idaho come down here and refuse to go in the water because it was dark. Back, we don't go in black water. No, 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 must be clear. I'm not like, dude, come on, man. I'm wading around in it. No, 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 no dark water. Okay. Well, but that don't stop us folks from down here, at least most those of us who know and understand. So I looked at the water, and the water was the color of clear, but deep. I almost wanted to like jump in, but it was cold that day. So along with this feather is a small little prayer, and led to a spot down in the middle of my swamps and my neighbors, to a place, like I said, I've walked that up and down through there a bunch, because I like to go looking for deer antlers and turtle shells and whatever might wash up. I pick up cans after a flood, because all the cans will wash down the river and everything, and they'll end up in my backyard. So I take them. I picked up cans the other day. I found a water hole with clean, clear water, and I'm not sure of the depth of this thing. I was tapped on the shoulder to go on this walk. The feather was my guide stone. It actually marked where I turned to the left to go onto this gentleman's property, because I was walking along my property line. So it's the power of a feather. It was an antenna. We're in a severe drought down here. My well's almost dry. I've got stored water and I'm okay, but that's not the issue. The issue is that I don't have spring water. I don't have a deep well. Can't afford it. And right now I don't really want one. But I know that there's water underneath me. And what I found was an open hole to the water reservoir. I found it's about, well, depending on where you stand here on the hill, is underneath me. Fresh, clean water. It's down there. And it's not really that far, but you have to know how to get it out. Now I don't even have to worry about getting it out. Now it's a good walk through the woods to get over there now. And I'm going to have to cut a trail so that I can get there more easily. But I have a fresh water source. I mean, how many of you can say you have an open spring of clean water that's not okay? An animal could poop in it, and you can see where, like I said, where animals come up. It's high on one end, but the water has washed it out. It almost looks like somebody scooped it out. But if they did it, it was a long time ago, because I've been here 35 years, and there ain't been no equipment down there in the 35 years I've been here. It must have been done a long time ago if it was. Now, this area was habitated by what? Creek and Muskogee Creek and the Cherokee, up and down between, they came down the Thigpen Trail, which ironically down here follows the ridge between the Little Ocklawacknie, which is in my backyard, and the Big Ocklawacknie, which is that away from me. So they were between the two rivers. So they had access to water not very far away, because if you're heading down a straight road and you got a good trail going, but you get thirsty or, having water nearby. I do believe that this was dug a long, long time ago because of the evidence around it. Now I'm going to take my camera over there. I'm also going to take a plumb bob and a string and see if I can determine how deep it is. But from just first looks at it, it's deep. Now, it could only be 3 or 4 foot deep, but where it's at, it's down, it's surrounded by clay. That's where I was kind of headed with this. Now, do I worship this feather? No. I was coming back around. But I give thanks to the feather for finding it. The energy that was in this, that is still in, resides in this feather from the bird that gave it to me and dropped it. And whether whether hawk or owl, both can see very well. And hawk always screeches and says, hey, I got a present, go look. Or be mindful, keep your eye out. Maybe it's a danger issue. And the danger could be anything. Owl. Some people say that, you're an owl person. Well, that means you're creepy and that death surrounds you. Well, I hope not. But owl is one of my totems. Hawk in the day and owl at night. They are my two brothers. I've had actual visits. You ain't gonna believe it, but when I was down on the river doing ceremony many years ago, as part of my training was through Creator and through Mother Earth and through the shamans that I worked with and the honest medicine men who taught me how to stop and to listen and how to pray and how to pray more than just tell me amen. No. How to deeply pray. How to take a sign like a feather. And when you get it, to listen to what it says, which is a message that I didn't know I needed, but I was shown a freshwater hole. I've been here 35 years, all up through these woods. But I didn't know that thing was there. It was hidden. Hawkeye. That's where I got my name, Hawkeye, two feathers. Because I would go and find two hawk feathers a lot back in the day. Like I said, I don't walk as good as I used to. What makes me qualified to speak about this red man, white man issue? Because I understand these. I understand feathers. Now, don't get me wrong. I want to stop right here. I am not the authority on feathers and what they mean, etc. Don't even go there. What I do know from my heart, because otherwise I would not have found that water hole. I got 35 years being here, and there it is. And the fact that I had no intention of going where I was going, it had I not listened to my guardian angel spirit guide that said, go over here to your right a little bit. But there's briars. Go over there anyway. But I'm going to go. Like, find a feather, go to that. Antenna. Higher spirit. Different frequency. To look at things around you that you don't see with your eyes, but you can feel with yourself, with who you are, your energy, your soul, your spirit. White people don't do that. And if you're a white person watching this, I mean no offense to you, because what I'm here, my job is to try to teach in my best half-breed way that those of you who want to say, Cindy K. Curry, the Native Americans are savages because they worship birds and feathers and... Lady, you've talked in some of your stuff about how your soul and how you and all those who follow you are going to rise up and everything. But the savage Native Americans are going to get left behind and they should be moved off of their homeland. Cindy K. Courier, you need to go get dunked in a river or something and woke up. If you think you're going to be in line with this ascension business, and you and yours, and you've done so much, and you're going to have all these people arrested, and all this stuff is going to happen, Cindy K. Courier, and you think the Native American is a savage. You're sitting on tribal lands, Cindy K. Courier. The land ain't yours. It wasn't America's. If we gave it back and did the things the right way, we wouldn't have to worry about sharing. We wouldn't really have to worry about money, bartering. Here, let me go make something. Wow, I like that necklace. What do you trade for it? Well, I got some earrings, I'll trade for these. Well, I don't know. Hey, what about that bell on your moccasins there? Oh, yeah, well, trade, barter. I got something I found, and oh man, somebody else thinks it's cool. That's how the Native Americans do. Now, you're trying to say that that's savage? Syndicate courier? Because that is what you are trying to establish. That's what you and you white folks are trying to do. Oh, well, we can all kumbaya together, and when we get back to the court of ages and blah, 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 you need to get taken to court, Miss Syndicate Courier, for the obnoxious things that you have said against the Native Americans, the clan mothers, who have they have more right than you. All this written down law and stuff. Clan mothers have treaties long before you ever set foot on this side of the planet. Syndicate courier, go somewhere else with your BS. Anyone who thinks that Native Americans are savage, I'm sorry, you need to go back to school. You need to go back to the school of human beings. Have you ever went and sat and talked with one of them? No, because all you hear are stories. You, Syndicate Courier, always complain. You complain about, how the media stretches this and how they're not telling the truth. And then the people who listen to you think Native Americans are savages. I need to find that one and play it back. Because, honey, it's taken me weeks to try and not scream at you, the white man in me, that I'm supposed to calm my anger. I'm sorry, but you shouldn't call anybody a savage except the people running the government right now. They're the people that are savages, dropping bombs on people. Bullets, bombs, what? Those are the savages. You've got people who are out on their native tribal lands, drumming and praying. Yes, they have their feathers. Yes, they are calling upon the spirit of this feather like an antenna. Yes, Creator, I'm burning sage, which is a sacred herb. And yes, Creator, I burn the sage, and with this sage, up to the heavens goes my prayer. I was raised a Catholic. I was an altar boy. I love doing the incense, man. All the other guys passed out. I love that incense thing. And I found out why. I loved, sage and the burning of sage and so forth. Catholics do it. Here's incense. Ding, 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 ding. So what are they doing with that? What are the Catholic? What is the Pope doing? I can't remember the name of it, but I used to fill it up full of this funky little crystals, and you had to light this little charcoal thing, briquette. And we'd stop along the way and pour some in, and some of them priests loved it, and the other ones were like passing out. I had to hold them up going down in the middle of the church aisle. I've been there. Oh, yeah. So what's different from this priest of any of the Episcopals? It's not just the Catholics now, but they use incense as part of their ceremony. Now, are those men savages? Hello? Cricket, cricket, cricket. Are the priest and the Episcopal, the Presbyterian, and we won't talk about the Catholics, but because they use incense in their church services, are they savage? Well, the Native Americans use sage to offer their prayers up, but you call them a savage. If the white people do it in the church, it's okay. If somebody does it out around a fire with a drum, you're a savage. No, the people in the churches are the savages. When Jesus walked on this earth, he went in to the temple, flipped over them money changers, didn't he? Where did he go to preach to the masses? Outside. Out on a hill. Out on a mountain. Down by the seashore. Christ didn't go to the synagogue and say, okay, everybody, come on in. We're going to have church in here. No, what did Jesus do? Jesus was outside. Jesus was like a Native American, y'all. Duh. Most Native Americans, if you listen to these people, they are armed with their prayer feathers and their prayer sticks. And their prayer stick, I'm not nearby. It's basically a stick, but it may have been carved with whatever, like the beaver or the otter. An otter, I've had otter come within a foot of me after one of my ceremonies at dawn one morning on the river. Oh, yeah. I mean, pop up and go, good morning, Mr. Hawkeye, and go back down. Because I asked that if everything was okay, if I would be shown a sign. And he popped up and said good morning and then went back. I know these things. White people, you need to stop and really take a look at your life. I know you've heard it from all of them before, and if you go to any kind of Christian church, you're going to probably hear it. Money doesn't mean anything. They don't. Luxuries and things, they don't matter. Because where do you go in the end? You can't take them with you. Okay? And right now, on this earth, this time, and all of us are here to help with the change. Cindy K. Courier, you can learn, but you got to stop with your addled brain that anyone who does something with a feather or says a prayer towards the sun is a worshiper. If I give thanks to the sun, thank you, sun, for shining on me today. Thank you, sun, for helping my plants grow. Thank you, sun. Thank you, rain, for bringing life to the earth and helping my plants grow. For raising the river and allowing the fish and the turtles and things to live. Thank you, Father Sky, for a beautiful evening with stars. Is that being a savage? Taking a piece of bread and saying they're going to change it into the body of Jesus and then offer it to everybody to eat, that is savage. You take a chalice full of wine and say you're going to change it into the blood of Jesus. And then you're going to offer it to everybody to drink. That is savage. The drum? Do you know that the drummers on the drums, they fast? Did you know that? They don't just go out there with the drum and start going like this. No. If they know they're going to have to drum, they fast, they pray, they put sage, they put tobacco, they make offerings, they pray the day before. And so that when they get out there, when they start to do their drum, they drum. They do it with a clear heart and a clear mind. They don't get drunk the night before. Now, there's been a member or two that has, and they get beat up by the other guys, I'll tell you. But white people, You think that Native Americans are savage? No. Like I said, I just gave you examples. Catholic Church, piece of bread into the body of Jesus and you're going to eat it. I don't think so. Nowhere in any Native American, in any tradition, anywhere have I heard of anybody that was going to make any kind of sacrifice and magically turn anything into the body of anything and then eat it. But the Catholic Church does it on a daily basis. But they call the Native American a savage. Now, I was raised a Catholic. I was an altar boy. I can say this. I've had priests pedophile me. Woohoo! I got my degree in Catholicism. I've been to many a powwow. And I have never, ever felt as much warmth and being at home with folks that I don't even know. But it be a family of people that I've met in another life, maybe, but I've not met this time around. But I can walk into and they can feel my presence. I can feel their presence, and we all just get along. It's as simple as that. You can write all the kind of papers that you want to about, well, you know, the psychology of the Native American versus the psychology of a stupid, idiot white person. Because they white people don't get it. Now, I'm going to do a series of these videos because I think it's important, very important, white people. You need to get off your damn high horse, you hear me? Old hootsy tootsie. I'm a white person and I go to a church inside and Native Americans are all savages. Let me tell you something. Folks, white people in your churches that I despise, almost, as far as I can remember back, in all the hundreds and probably thousands of Native Americans that I have met in my travels with puppeteering and storytelling and powwows, and I'm going to continue my journey. Folks online and just folks, they all believe in Jesus Christ. I haven't heard of any of them that don't. And every powwow that I've been to, they always say a Christian prayer. Oh, so these savages say a Christian prayer before they have their pagan sacrifice of drumming and dancing with feathers. Folks, if you could only understand the true spirit of these people, and I mean, and Mexican people, there are certain, I don't want to say tribes, but it's the best way I can describe it. Let's just say neighborhoods, because I've met many Mexicans over the years and from different parts of Mexico, and they have different traditions. And these will make a tamale sauce a certain way, and others will make it over here. Well, I went to a gathering one time of all these families around here, and they had this stuff. I don't know what it was. It burned my mouth so bad I couldn't quit eating it. I hated it because it burnt my mouth. It was the best stuff I ever ate in my life, but it burned, and it was so delicious. But other people, Mexicans, didn't like it because it wasn't from their section of Mexico. Well, just like us, and I mean, if you go for a Philly cheesesteak, you want to get a good one, you go to Philly. You know, you want to get a Cuban sandwich, go to Ybor City in Tampa or Miami, you know. But to the point, you know, you go where it's good, you know. And God Almighty, these people who want to make us all one thing, no, we can all be as one heart, but we don't need to be all one religion. No. I might say my prayer slightly different than you, but if we're both praying to the good guy, and if we're both praying to the light, I'm not gonna, you know, want to whack you for you didn't say my prayer. Fooey on that mess. No, We got to think together on this. White people, you got to get off your high horses. Indians riding horses, right? All right, so what I covered right now, Cindy K. Courier, savages, these people who don't want the Corps of Engineers, who admitted that they were drilling under the Missouri River illegally, but they're just going to pay the fines later. When I went to work for a gentleman years ago, I'm like early 80s kind of years ago, he was up in North Carolina, and we were sitting in his $2-3 million home up there in North Carolina, and he's big Republican person up there, and talking about, and this and that, and he's drinking his scotch, and the more he got drunk, the more he got to yapping. Well, he got to talking about, them goddamn Indians. He said, I'd rather have two niggers than one Indian. There ain't nothing good about an Indian except to shoot him. How you feel about it, Dave? Well, I don't know about shooting them, but how are they as workers? Oh, they come in late. Then they talk about this bullshit Indian time, whatever that is. Okay. But he was serious. He would rather shoot them. Shoot them with a pistol dead shoot. And they do. They've been hit. The women, the Native American women, have been raped. If they go into town, they don't have to worry about their guys doing it. They have to worry about the white guys. You don't hear about the natives going in and raping the women. They'll make up stories about it, but they don't do it because that ain't how a Native American actually is on the inside. He couldn't do it. Force himself on someone like that. No, he'd have to be crazy drunk or on some kind of whacked out drugs, but in a normal state time, he ain't gonna do it. He ain't gonna want to go diddle little boys like white people do in the Catholic Church and all this Pizzagate crap. Don't let it go. These people are pedophiles. I've had enough of my being pedophile in my lifetime, and I know what it did to me. And I know what it does to other children because I've spoken to other children about it, about how they got pedophiled and what happened. In the Native American community, you do not hear of it, except when it's done by a white person. Now, I'm not saying it don't happen. I don't go there. But I'm saying as far as down here in the South, man, you could flip a coin and find a girl or a boy who's been molested in some sort of evil way. Not by blacks, not by Indians, by white people. So this thing with the pipeline, they're not coming off the land. And if I could get there, I wouldn't come off the land either, but I got land here I need to take care of. And this land is important too. And I say my prayers here on this land. And they know. Folks, if any of you live Standing Rock, this is my prayer to you. I love you all. I do understand what you're doing. I do understand where your hearts are to save the water. I'm trying to save the water here in my backyard. They have polluted the rivers here so badly that nothing grows. Nothing lives in them anymore. I've watched my river just absolutely become destroyed. I am one of the water workers as well. We must stop these evil people from what they're doing. We must stand together. I stand here from South Georgia. Hawkeye Two Feathers. I say I lift up my prayer. And anyone who watches this, I hope that you will lift up your prayer for Mother Earth. She's a living being. Let's just think in terms of most folks have a pet. Most. Or know that if they like dogs or cats. Mother Earth is like a dog or a cat, but I don't mean as a pet. I mean as a living creature. Native Americans understand that. It's not just dirt. It's not just a tree. It's not just a rock. It's not just a stream or a river. It's a living thing. And she's not real happy with white people right now. She's going to sling as many of them off as she can get. And I don't blame her. And I'm ready to get to slinging. Because I know that during the slinging, if something happens and I get demised, then I will be with my Creator, because I will have lived with Mother Earth, along with Mother Earth, protecting this part of my land that I am only the protector of. I don't own it. I know that. And them folks out there, they don't own it either. And the Native Americans, they don't own it, but they want to protect it. White people, you don't get it. I hope you do. My prayer, along with those at Standing Rock, I know my brothers and sisters will stand strong. I know they will. Why do I know they will? Because they already have. To stand underneath that cold water and that freezing temperatures. I've been there in a similar situation. God bless them all. And to not fight them back, to not just go native on them and rip them all to shreds like a berserker kind of thing. But that's a white person. I'm kidding on that one. But to the point, though, our prayers to Mother Earth. I continue my prayer to Mother Earth. I'm thankful for this feather that I found. I'm thankful and grateful for that open artesian well that I found right next door to me after 35 years of living here in these woods. Oh, fresh water out of a spring. Guess what I was asking Creator? I was looking for spring water. Why? Because it's not as contaminated as all the other types of water. Why? Because Mother Earth has done nice little tingly things to spring water. Good, healthy, tingly things for us human beings to help wipe out the radiation and the stuff that the white people are doing to us. Idiots. Well, there are people in power who are doing things. They've misused their power. I pray anyone who watches that you pay attention. Go out. Take 10 minutes and honest to God, hug a tree. Ask it, can I hug you? Ask it, will you share your energy and your history with me? Will you allow me to put my arms around you and hug you and feel your energy? I have meditated under trees, and there was the first time that it actually took me off. I literally could feel myself being drawn up. I had my back to the tree in a very restful position, but I could feel my spirit being drawn up. I knew my body was down there. I could kind of see it, but I was being drawn up the tree trunk and all the way up into a limb and shot out to the edge of a leaf. And there I was at the top of this tree, swaying in the sunlight in the breeze, and could just look out over the valley. And I went, whoa. When I shook myself and I fell out of the tree basically, came back to myself and went, wait a minute. But then with just a little bit of practice, I realized that I actually could share my energy with the tree, and that my spirit, my energy, if I shared it and if the tree allowed it, that I could be a leaf or part of that leaf on the top of a tree. That's not crazy. It's true. And guess what science is doing? They're figuring out that it's probably possible. Well, other dimensions. Why do we talk to our grandfathers, grandmother? How did I have grandmother just appear to me out of nowhere but blink in, and she was there, and say what she said and blink out? because it's only a frequency away on the radio dial. Do white people understand this? Well, they try to get science and oh, well, there must be some scientific way for me to understand this, or Jesus, he's got to come to me and show me this. And oh, get over it, will you? It's more than that, but it's really kind of simple. It's our frequency. And right now, Mother Earth is changing her frequency. Her frequency's been raising from the Schumann frequency that it was. And folks are being a little agitated. Folks are being tired when they shouldn't be. Stuff's happening in weird places and things. And all these earthquakes are going off, and they have been since like 2012. The Mayan calendar was right. It's 2012 now. Yep. They got it wrong. The white people got it wrong. So what do? We have to be kind to one another. We got to quit calling each other names like savages. Cindy K. Courier of Let's All Rise Together, whatever. Shame on you, madam. Shame on you. Shame. Bad word insert, expletive deleted. I know. I'll have to say a prayer about that. That was bad energy. I don't want to send this woman bad energy. But everyone she speaks, everyone that listens to that recording of her is going to think Native Americans are savages. So I'm going to keep it up. Everyone I make about the Native Americans, I'm going to call out Cindy K. Courier until she makes a public apology. Cindy K. Courier, who's the savage lady? Because what she says is carrying through to anyone who listens. Native American savage, Native American savage. I'm kind of wondering whether or not she's a shill. You know what I'm saying? Oh, we're going to arrest all these people in the court of ages and everything. Oh, don't let me go back through that. Cherokee had one of the best alphabets of languages. They had courts and everything. All of the council women and the tribal mothers going back from the beginning of Mother Earth and when they were all here living peaceably without trying to conquer the other guy. Somebody asked me, and I'm going to close with this, and I'm probably not going to be able to say it exactly right. I've got a quote somewhere. But let's just talk about, like, for example, somebody said, well, to become the chief, you in a tribe, you must have done a lot of politicking and blah, blah, blah. Well, I'm sure there's a little bit of politicking in there, but to become a great chief, anybody can be the chief, be a great chief. The great chief will honor the elderly and the children, and they will get choice pieces of the kill, the meat, or or whatever the pudding is made, or whatever. And the brave is last. Now, why is that? And when I heard it, I thought to myself, well, that's pretty cool, man. But now white people don't get it. Well, why would you feed that old lady in the camp and feed the little young children, feed them first, when the brave, he's the one that drugged that buffalo carcass halfway across the plain, bring it here for, the women to cut up and cook. Why didn't he get the choice cut? And the answer of the chief was because the chief answered, and he said, because he's strong enough to go get more, and the others are not. Think about it. What do? I'm on retirement. They cut a third of my Social Security check. And if it weren't for the fact that I have lived poor a lot of my life, most of my life, and that also in my mind, I don't need much. That allows me to live poor. But there are people who didn't expect this or are living poor. And it's not fair. It's not fair. Not have enough money. I don't have money to go get a gallon of milk. I mean, come on. I don't get my check for another week. I got it covered. It's okay. But that's not the point. Their milk's getting thrown away because it's not being sold. But they cut our Social Security checks so they can spend the money and give it to the illegal aliens who are moving in to our country. Now, I paid into my Social Security. This ain't no joke. I've been working. I worked since I was the age of 13. I'm 64. Figure it out. 51 years I worked. And they cut my pay because they said, nah, well, you don't deserve that much. But they didn't just cut mine. They cut everybody across the board. This is white people did white people. I paid into it. It's supposed to be my insurance. It's supposed to be my fallback. And I have to live dirt poor and hungry and can't get my teeth fixed. I had 3 teeth break out over the holidays. Happy Thanksgiving to me. I had 3 teeth break and couldn't chew a damn thing. Happy Thanksgiving. Native Americans, they're savages, though. Yeah, you bet, Syndicate Courier. You need to put an apology out. You need to go out there yourself and apologize to them people. And with that, I say, Wado, I love you all. Be kind. Be good. Feed somebody, will you? Quit being mean. Stop calling names, for goodness sake. And I yap too much. God bless you all.